bringing the world to your world. This is Walt Disney World Today. Here are Mike Scopa, Len Testa, Mike Newell, and your host, Matt Hochberg.
It's Monday, March 28th, 2011, and this is episode 856 of WDW Today. I'm Matt Hochberg of StudioCentral.com. Joining me on today's show is Len Testa, co-author of the Unofficial Guide to Walt Disney World. Welcome to the show, Len.
Matt, I'm an optimist. When I go fishing, I bring a Nikon and a frying pan. That, by the way, is a David Lee Roth quote.
If only the world could listen to this.
I love it.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. I love that song. So
Nice.
That is one of the funniest things I have ever heard. I'm not just saying it because it was
you.
That ranks up there with my impromptu test track rap.
Ooh, that's classic.
Do we have audio of that? No,
We do. Somewhere
later. That's fine. And then and then our opening theme song by Jared, I think, is just fabulous.
Well, Newell has everything that we would need, right? But if you can picture the last scene of Raiders of the Lost Ark, that's probably what Newell's hard drive looks like. It's all there. It's just a vast storage space, and he's got to go find it. But, yeah. Also joining us on today's show is Mike Newell of Mouse World Red. Welcome to the show, Mike.
I'm going to play this little clip for a second. The great Len Testa and the Test Track remix.
Yeah. Test track.
By GM.
It's the longest introduction we've ever done. And
Sorry.
Well, what year is that from, Mike? Like 2007?
According to it was recorded on August 4th, 2008.
Wow.
So it was Magic
About 3
Meets
years.
2008.
Jeez.
Yeah, and amazingly, it's been on the Billboard Hot 100 every week since then.
That is your 2112 album right there, Len.
It is actually.
That is. You're right.
My magnum opus. Yeah, right.
Also joining us on today's show is the fabulous Annette Owens, a manager of customer relations and group services for MEI and Mouse Fan Travel. Welcome to the show, Annette.
Hey guys, I think we should just let Lynn sing the whole entire show. What do you think? Kiss my grits.
That's right. We need to do a singing episode.
our Glee episode.
Yeah, like Glee. Yeah, exactly, like Glee.
Oh, no. Don't even. Oh, no.
I think that's a great idea.
I think it would be interesting.
On today's show, we're talking about paying for the magic. And, when you're going to Walt Disney World, we're always kind of focused on, when we're actually in Walt Disney World. But, before you even get to Walt Disney World, you've got to pay for the trip in many cases. And we're going to talk about how we personally and in our experiences as well, literally pay to go to Walt Disney World. And there's a lot of different things that go into it. So let's start. I think the best place to start with is actually when you book the vacation. And I guess this pretty much applies to the hotel stay. You have two options, right? Annette, you can you have to definitely put down a deposit if you're staying on Walt Disney World property for one night. But you have the option of paying the entire balance before you arrive, paying in increments until you arrive, or paying it all off upon check-in. Is that right?
Well, that's if you're doing room only. If you're doing a package, you're going to have to pay for it about 45 days before you arrive. But if it's room only, yeah, you have those options that you said.
So, Annette, let's start with you. What do you think? If you're doing room only, because obviously package, you got no choice. You got to pay for it, right. You said, in advance. But if you're doing room only, do you prefer to pay for it in advance? Do you like making increments? Or do you just pay it all upon check-in?
No, I like to gradually pay off the room. So then when I get there, that expense is behind me and paid for. And it's, then I can really take my time and enjoy myself in the park and not have to worry so much about the budget as much because I
always say that to myself, and I end up with, okay, sir, you have one night paid for, and you need to pay the rest of the nights now. I just like to put off what I can until the last minute. That's just my style. What about you, Len? Are you a last-minute kind of guy, pay for it upon check-in, or do you pay for it in advance?
I think Annette knows this. I pay for everything in advance as much as I can. Yeah.
And why do you do that?
Which cracks me up as much as you change around resort to resort and room to room, but it is funny. He does. He pays.
I like number one, I like to know that when I get there, I like to relax and know that I've already paid for everything. and that it's not going to show up on next month's credit card bill because it was already on this month's credit card bill and I paid it.
That makes sense. I should just ask Annette these questions because she probably knows everyone's preferences. But what about you, Newell?
Yeah. So Annette, what about Newell's preferences?
Newell, don't lie. I know what everybody's preferences are.
That's true. That's true. But normally what I do is I put, during the year, I save a budget, and then throughout the year I put a little bit here away in there into a separate account, and then once I'm down there I charge everything. Now that I have a American Express Gold card, and I just charge everything to there, and then when I get home, that money goes right out of the budget into the bill. I pay it off in one shot.
So you pay for, like, when you check in, you pay for your hotel stay, but then when you get home, you just prefer to pay it all off when you get home, basically. Is that
yeah, I don't like carrying debt, so one of the nice things about the American Express card is I have to, by the way it's set up, pay the entire balance when the bill comes. So let's say I go the second week of August. By the time the bill comes, it's usually the second week or the first week of September. So I still have a good 3 to 4 weeks before I have to pay it. But I usually have a budget set aside just for that, so that when that bill comes, boom, it's done.
So I'm just not clear on what. So you make the reservation for May today, right? March, and then do you pay the entire balance for the room today, or do you pay until you check in?
I pay when I check in. They swipe the card when I check in. And usually that doesn't get charged until you leave, so that gives me another week to 10 days, depending how long I stay before I actually.
I'm totally with you on that.
Thank you.
So
now, because of everybody said their preferences, the one thing I can say, because I've been depositing just a few rooms over the past 10 years, and seeing the things that can go wrong.
What do most people like to do, Annette?
Most people actually like to pay the one night deposit and pay when they get there. But I can tell you the benefit that I have found over the years for going on and taking care of paying for everything beforehand. If you do that, and something happens when there's a computer download, maybe where they download the rate wrong to the resort, which it does happen. Disney systems sometimes make mistakes. If you've paid it in full, you've got it, then you can go and you have a little better leg to stand on when you're there checking it at the counter than somebody that's paid a one night deposit. I mean, you're still going to have. When Disney's reservation system goes to transfer the reservation or make an update,
right, and they change the rate
it can change it sometimes, yeah. So if you had it at an AP discount, but yet when it downloads for some odd reason, it goes to standard rate. If you've got it paid in full and you were paid in full, you're not going to have to put that money out on your credit card when you check in and then have to fix it later.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah. Okay, so less headache perhaps in the event of an issue.
Right. Well, and that doesn't happen often, but it does happen.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. So let's talk about when you're actually at Walt Disney World, you're paying for stuff, because there's a couple of ways you can pay. You can pay in cash. You can pay with a credit card for stuff, or you can or a debit card, I guess, or you can use the room key, the key to the world card. So, what do you guys, Lennon? Let's start with you. How do you prefer to pay for stuff at Walt Disney World?
So, a couple of things. One is before Bob was paying for all my stuff, when I actually had to pay for myself, we would save money in like a giant coin jar every 6 months or so for and then cash it in like at a grocery store or at a bank and use that money for spending money when we're in Walt Disney World. So it would pay for food essentially. That's a great way to accumulate money. I remember one time within 6 months, just by the loose change that I had accumulated in my car and from buying lunch at work every day, I had almost $700 in quarters.
Wow, you buy a lot of coffee.
So it's funny because my lunch is always exactly $3.50 at work. So I always had 2 quarters a day.
So you never used your 2 quarters to make the 50 cent?
No, I never thought of doing that, actually. I would bring it home every day and throw it in the jar so I wouldn't do that.
What are these things they keep on giving me back?
These are the strangest things. What do people do with this? Yeah.
Throw it in a jar.
Yeah, $700 in quarters. Wow. And then it was, Starbucks stuff before I had my Starbucks card. The interesting thing is now I have a Starbucks card, and I've gone to a contactless payment thing for American Express, so I typically don't get as much change as I used to. Yeah, I'm all for phasing out the penny, by the way. Go ahead.
What about you, Annette? How do you like to pay for stuff at Walt Disney World? Cash, credit card, debit card, room key?
Well, I like to charge everything back on the room key. Just so I can, I like to go back and, I mean, I still have the receipts, but I like to have just that one so I don't have to walk around with a whole bunch of cash. I don't have to walk around with all my credit cards, all that other kind of stuff. Just, it's convenient. But I do kind of watch what I'm doing. And for the longest time, I don't anymore, but before, I did have the Disney Visa. So after you've spent enough, you can go down and put your reward dollars down on it. So that's how I would pay for a lot of my expenses.
Yeah, well, let me ask you this, because I was thinking about this before the show, and I'm whenever I stay on property, I always use the room key too. But I mean, really, I guess what is the real convenience of the room key? Because the room key and a credit card, no matter which one you pay for, you still get a receipt you have to sign, and they give you a receipt for it. So it's not like it's any faster. It's not like you swipe the card and boom, okay, you're off to go. It's the same difference as a credit card.
Right.
So why? To explain, I guess I'm just trying to figure out
why the thought process of the blonde. Is that what you're asking?
Yes, I'm trying to. I mean, I guess people always say, and I used to say the same thing, that the room key is more convenient. But I guess I'm trying to figure out why it is more convenient. I mean, it's just that
you ready for this?
It's a lot easier to replace it. Go ahead.
Well, kind of. I mean, if I'm going to lose something, I'd rather lose my room key and be able to go back and get one than my Visa.
That's true.
But no, the thing for me is I then have all of my receipts on one printout at the end of the trip. So I then know exactly what I've spent on the trip itself. It's all on one page instead of having to pull it out from the credit card statement and then, I paid some cash here and I did that. You have it all right there in front of you.
What's your preferred method?
Well, the room key, obviously, because like I said, everything gets charged to the credit card anyway. But one thing that I used to do prior to a trip, and this is why I would use the room key. I used to use my debit card. When you charge the debit card, the money's taken out spot on right there. When you charge the room key, nothing gets charged to the card until you check out. So in some cases, that would give me an extra payday. That would I would get an extra, a check from work that while I was, on vacation, I get the previous week's check.
Yep.
So, and usually the previous week I would work a lot of overtime, so I'd have that extra money, and it wouldn't be until that Thursday, and I'd already be down there. So it kind of, when you're using it that way, it extends your actual card swipe at least until you check out.
Yeah, now the one thing about that, I want to add to what you just said, Mike. Actually, each resort kind of like gives you each room key, depending on your resort level, is like they're fronting you money. When you check in and they give you that little piece of paper that you have to sign for your room to use charging privileges, if you look at it, like if you're at a value resort, I believe it's $500. And then a moderate resort, it's like $1,000 or $1,500. And then deluxe is like $2,000 or $2,500. But the thing is, it's not that they won't ever say, "Oh, sir, you're maxed out." But what they'll do is if you hit that limit, if you hit the $500 limit, they'll actually hit your credit card for that amount and then allocate you another $500. If that makes sense. So I guess if you're spending, I mean, obviously, even at a value resort, spending $500 on a room key, well, at Disney World, I guess that's not that difficult. But yeah, I mean, the itemized bill, I guess, does make sense, especially when you're trying to figure out, who spent all this money at, Beaches and Cream at 2 a.m. Let's talk. You guys sort of hit upon this before, and that's the rewards points, and there's rewards points and frequent flyer programs. So, what do you guys prefer, if you do? Some people don't use credit card programs, but what is your favorite credit card program, and why? Do you prefer maybe you're like Annette and prefer, or used to prefer at least the Disney reward points? Do you go for like Discover and just get cash back? Do you go for something like Capital One and you prefer to get your frequent flyer mile programs? I mean, what's your favorite reward program, Len, and why?
I work for American Express.
I think we kind of know what's coming.
Yeah, my favorite. Well, actually, so it is actually Membership Rewards by American Express, but it's Membership Rewards is also the most popular and the best according to I think Consumer Reports and JD Power.
Well, you could actually. Well, which one do you use? Because you could have like the Delta American Express card, and that gives you Delta points, right?
Actually, I have a rewards card from American Express, so I get
so just
double,
standard.
No, I get double points on certain kinds of like grocery purchases and other kinds of things, and it's just like Newell's card that you have to pay it off every month. So I just budget for it every month. But those are some really useful. They're really useful points for air travel mostly. I I generally fly, like when I'm flying, I'm usually flying Delta or Southwest to Orlando or US Air. Mm-hmm. But those points are more valuable on longer flights, like if I was going to Anaheim or if I was going to Paris, because a round trip ticket between Greensboro and Orlando most of the year is a couple $100. It's not worth blowing 25 or 50,000 miles on. You want to save those miles for the big long haul flights. So that's generally what I do, both with my reward points and with my airline frequent flyer miles, is use them on as long a flight as I can find and trying to upgrade to first class.
So you go for the airline points as opposed to, because American Express, you can also use them for like hotel, not Disney World, I don't think, but like hotel stays or other stuff like gift cards.
The cool thing with membership rewards at American Express, you can actually use it to pay for almost anything.
Right.
And so you could use it to pay for, like Amazon accepts membership rewards points now. You could buy stuff from Amazon on it. But no, I think that for me the best value, I haven't done all the math, I think the best value was with long haul air travel.
What about the airlines themselves, Len? Which frequent flyer program do you like the best?
I like Southwest because it's the easiest for me. And they'll
easiest in what way?
They'll do segments as well as miles. So I don't get a lot of miles flying between here and Orlando, but I do get segments. And I think most of the other airlines have done away with segments, and they're now just strictly focused on revenue miles. So.
Okay. What about you, Newell? What's your favorite rewards program, frequent flyer, that jazz?
I honestly
frequent
don't.
rail.
I honestly
they have the auto trail.
That's the only rewards program that I'm signed up is the Amtrak. Amtrak
really?
program. Yeah, the other ones I don't use only because I'm new to American Express, so I don't have enough points racked up for anything. So I didn't have the Visa, the Disney Visa card, so I don't have any of that stuff. So this is all new to me.
Yeah, the card I have, I'm still a Disney Visa card holder. Actually, in my little geek cred, on the bottom of my card it says Charter card member because I'm that cool.
Ooh.
A lot of people have the card member since day one, but that's not that impressive. What's really impressive is when it says underneath your name Charter card member. But as proud as I am of that, I'll be the first to admit that the Disney card by Chase is pretty awful in terms of points. It's $1, or it's not even $1. It's we get 1% back, so $1 for every $100 you spend. Yeah, and it's not the best. There's much better programs out there. The reason why I do it, well, I spend so much time at Walt Disney World that it just makes sense. And what we do, even though we live in Florida now, is we'll use the card for our everyday purchases. And then, when we stay on property a couple times a year, like Star Wars weekends or Reunion or something like that, we'll cash in our points. And just that way, then basically we have they issue a debit card for all intents and purposes. And you can use that and, use the points that way. We would use, I actually like Discover because they give you, a lot of times they'll give you 5% cash back on a lot of things. But the problem with Discover is not everyone takes it. And I stopped using, I have an American Express card, but I don't use it anymore as much as my main card, just because I don't fly that much anymore. So I'm not that big on the frequent flyer miles.
Yeah.
But the frequent flyer program I like the best. I think I agree with Len. Southwest is definitely the best. I use Delta also. Those two airlines I really fly the most. Newell, who do you usually fly?
Delta and JetBlue.
Now, which one between Delta and JetBlue, whose rewards or frequent flyer miles program do you like better? Okay.
Those things expire, and if I don't use them, they expire. I lose them, so it's not even worth it to me for that stuff. I'd rather use American Express card and get the points that way, because those points,
Yeah, they stick around.
And not only that, but I'm obviously I could use them for other things besides airlines.
It's a lot more flexible,
right?
Yeah.
Whereas points
I don't mean the credit card. Sorry, I mean you go on a flight, right? And you take like Southwest, you do what is it, 16 flights, you get a round trip ticket back.
16 flights. That's a lot of flights, and by the time you go over, they expire. I mean, I was in the Delta program and I was in the JetBlue program, and now my balance is at zero because I never racked up enough points to use anything with them, and then. If I don't fly as much, I wound up losing them. So to me, they weren't worth it.
Okay, fair enough. What about you, Annette? What's your favorite credit card rewards and then your favorite frequent flyer program?
Well, I really did enjoy having the Disney rewards and having that debit card because it was just a kind of like you were saying, groceries, gas purchases, that kind of stuff we do. And then that was money to spend when we were down there. But Southwest is really the only frequent flyer that I belong to. Southwest is the only airline I can get out of Raleigh-Durham that goes nonstop to Orlando. So for me, it's not really worth it for me to, in my opinion anyway, to get on a flight that's going to stop in Charlotte or stop in Atlanta to go down to Orlando. I could just drive in about the same amount of time. So
speaking of I guess glorified gift cards and things like that. Does anyone still have any Disney dollars left over? Like paper money?
Yeah, I do
Disney
actually.
dollars?
I have a few ones left over. Yeah.
yes, and you can still get those at Downtown Disney.
Woo.
That's good to know. I thought they got rid of them altogether, but you could still get them at Downtown Disney.
Yeah, you can still ask for them, and if they have some, they don't have a lot, but if they have them, you can trade out.
Cool. Newell, do you have any left over?
If I do, I have no idea where they are.
That Monopoly money.
Yeah, I didn't even. Did they stop that? I didn't even know that they weren't doing that anymore.
Yeah, counterfeiting. There were counterfeiting.
Oh, you kidding?
Yeah,
Really?
No. If you ever, so if you remember the last couple of years when they were doing the Disney dollars, they tried a whole bunch of anti-counterfeiting techniques. They put the sparkle dots on them that couldn't be Xeroxed. They started doing a lot of stuff that the U.S. Treasury used to do.
It was becoming like $1.
Yeah, it was a lot like a U.S. dollar. I mean, they were going to the, what's the term, intaglio printing, where it was the actual printing process turns it into a slightly 3D feeling bill, so it doesn't feel like flat paper. It actually has a feel like, you guys ever feel a U.S. dollar? It has texture to it,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
and that's a combination of the paper that it's printed on, but also the way that the press presses down on it when it's printing. And it's a special kind of printing press called intaglio. And then Disney also switched over to cloth paper, so paper with a higher rag content, and with the red and the blue flecks in it, just like the U.S. dollar used to have. And they did the little sparkly dots on it. It was counterfeiting was becoming a problem, and they were taking anti-counterfeiting measures.
Wow.
That's why they switched.
But now
to
there's
cards.
so many gift card options out there now, and
Yeah,
you
and
can
that's why
call
they
in
switched
and you can replenish them and that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. It's
Yeah.
just a lot.
And it's probably cheaper in the long run to them instead of printing
Yeah, it
all
is.
these dollars. That here's a gift card. It's probably a lot cheaper.
But still, it was nice. It was nice.
Yeah.
Last question for you guys. We're all, regardless of how long you're there for, whether it be a weekend or a week or even longer, how are your spending habits? You typically come, when you get that bill at the end of the day, is it like, ah? Or is it,
Yeah.
or are you pretty much on target with what you thought you'd be spending?
Yeah, I always dread that last.
Everyone isn't having the moment. You're lying. You're all lying.
Yeah, I always dreaded that last morning, opening the door and finding the envelope hanging on the doorknob and going,
Yeah.
It feels like it's
not
about
bad
5
enough that
pages
you have
long.
to leave, but they're also, by the way, you owe us this much money because you
Yeah.
bought all that food and all those stuff. When,
Yeah.
Oh man.
And I know I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you really should open up the envelope and check it out before you leave, because it's a lot easier to fix a billing problem
Yeah.
when you're there at the resort than when you get home.
Yeah,
No, I
that's
always
a
do
good
that.
tip.
I always open it up and I'm like, oh, this must be an error somewhere. I did not spend this much money. And I go down and I go, yep.
Yep.
All
yep.
right,
That was me. That was me. I remember that. Yep.
Wish I could blame somebody else, but
Ooh, that was good. Yeah. Oh, that. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep. Yep. Ooh,
maybe that wasn't a good idea.
Yeah. What are you gonna do?
Well, that's going to do it for us today. If you want to find our older episodes, read our show notes, or send us your comments, you can visit us online at wdwtoday.com. For Len Testa, Mike Scopa, Mike Newell, and the fabulous Annette Owens, I'm Matt Hochberg. We'll see you on the next show.
Stupid Judy, stupid energy.
This has been a production of Mouse World Radio.